So Lewis was listening, I guess it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I happened to be walking by, so I popped my head and he had his eyes closed and he was doing this. I mean, you could tell he was really, really enjoying it.
I really like the Lumin, but I would not give it a nod over the McIntosh C53.
I would be more than happy just to have the P1 in my system or run the lead H.
It may well be the best all-in-one unit I've heard. Anyway,
that's what we do. We talk ad nauseum forever.
And interrupt me ad nauseum as well. So it's been a while since we did a review. So today we're going to do the Lumin P1. You can see the unboxing video, which is many of your favorites. Alex is going to link the unboxing video in the description box. So anyway, the Lumin P1 is a streamer, DAC, and preamp. It's three functions in one beautiful chassis. Let me give you some of these specs first. 9 digital and analog inputs, including USB, Ethernet, Toslink, RCA, AES EBU XLR, 1 HDMI 2.0, and 3 HDMI ARCs, in other words, audio return channels, so you can hook up your TV to it. BNC and USB digital outputs, balanced and RCA analog inputs and outputs. It uses 2 Faber ES9028 Pro DACs in mono mode. It has a femto clock, dual toroidal linear power supply. It uses the lead, or it has the option of using the lead processing
lead
lossless
H.
Lead H. Is that processing lossless volume control, Lundal output transformers, and specifications size-wise: 350 millimeters wide, 380 millimeters deep, 107 millimeters high, 12 kilograms. And then for North America and Canada, it's 13.8 inches wide, 15 inches deep, and 4.2 inches high, 26.4 pounds. Solid aluminum chassis. It's actually quite beautiful. And it comes with a beautiful remote control made of acrylic and zinc, which is made in Australia, right there.
Look how beautiful that is.
And the price is 13,500 Canadian. So who wants to start?
Lewis?
I'll start. So I listened to, firstly, what we're comparing it to was the C53 Mac preamp, and that's one of my favorites. Then I listened to the Lumin P1. Now, as a single box item with a streamer DAC, I certainly recommend it. It sounds fantastic, very detailed in both the streamer mode as well as the preamp mode using the DAC, and it sounds fantastic. I played a few of my favorite songs, which I used to test equipment for the sound qualities, and it passed with flying colors.
So Lewis was listening, I guess it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I happened to be walking by, so I popped my head and he had his eyes closed and he was doing this. I mean, you could tell he was really, really enjoying it. He was really enjoying it.
I was enjoying the music and the reproduction. It was fantastic. I certainly, it's an item which...
So what, like you were listening to Ozzy or something like that? Blizzard of Oz?
No.
Come on.
No.
I know you like metal.
Before we go further, we should describe the audio system and so the protocol. Because it's an all-in-one unit, was it Philip or somebody suggested we should check out the preamp section as well. Ideally, we would have also liked to have checked out the DAC by itself. Problem is, due to COVID, we're short of everything in terms of display units. So we really didn't have a DAC in the sort of kind of price range to compare it with. But and even the preamp, I mean, the McIntosh is a lot of money as well. But we thought, well, we know the preamp very well. A lot of our clients have the C53. So why don't we just compare it to the preamp? So we compared the preamp section of the P1, the Lumin, to the McIntosh C53. Now, what else did we use in the system, Philip?
McIntosh MC462.
Okay, that's the power amplifier.
Mostly Wilson Audio Sabrina X. But sometimes
I also listen to the Acora. Yeah, exactly.
SRC1.
Yeah, this is a review that's a long time in coming. We've had a few false starts wanting to do it, and we always got very, very busy. So anyway, what are your thoughts when you compared the preamp section between its internal preamp and the McIntosh?
I think the Mac, I will give it, the McIntosh, I will give it a slight boost over the Lumin P1. The C53 is really a very detailed, sweet sounding, solid state preamp. Definitely one I favor in McIntosh lineup. Separation and everything from the P1 is fantastic, same as in the Mac. Detail, nothing lacking there, nothing short there. But I still think the Mac has, on the DAC side of it and preamp side, definitely I would go with the McIntosh. But if it was someone who needed one less unit, and cabling and all that, definitely the Lumin is a very good proposition.
Yeah, the Mac's a lot of money, you know, relative to the P1, right? The preamp is like 10,000 or something like that Canadian dollars.
It's 85.
Yeah, so let's say round it to about 10,000 Canadian plus or minus. Yeah.
And it's not a streamer. The Mac is not a streamer, but the Lumin is a fantastic streamer. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's a top quality, highly rated streamer.
Yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention some of the other details with regards to the streaming. The P1, these are some of the streaming services that it supports. Spotify, Spotify Connect, MQA, Rune, Tidal, Tidal Connect, Qobuz, which we don't get in Canada, Apple AirPlay, TuneIn Radio, and probably a few others. Yeah. Okay, Philip, what do you think?
I mean, this review has been so long in the making, and quite frankly, I didn't really get a chance to go through all the permutations because it does so much. The unit does so much. My original thought was that we would just compare certain functions. Ideally, I think that the big hook on this is not so much that it's a great streamer, which it is. I mean, it's a Lumin streamer. It's almost as good as the X1 in many ways. It's better, definitely better than the T2 that we've heard many times in the store. So it would have all those Lumin attributes. It's not even so much the fact that it's a DAC, because we know what, even though we've probably not heard a DAC with ESS 828 Pros in them in the mono configuration, we know what that chipset sounds like, and it's you know, it's prevalent in a lot of different DACs. It doesn't rewrite the book on digital presentation. It doesn't rewrite the book on, you know, the quality of the streaming service. It's limited by obviously the stream that it gets, and we know that the streams that are available today are not going to be the same as what's going to come tomorrow. It's all going to improve. So whatever the shortcomings are in terms of what the digital presentation is from a streaming perspective, it's relatively unimportant. What is important, though, for this unit is the fact that it has a preamp function. That's what I think is the most important thing. And however you use it as a hub, if you're using this as a one-box solution, then that's the most important part. I've already sold this unit to a client who is using it exactly that way as you're going to be using it with the big McIntosh monoblocks, the 1.25 kWs. And when we demoed it, and we demoed it with both Amatis and the Aidas, and we drove those speakers with 611s, it sounded great. However, I did the presentation, and I used I did use Lead H, which improves the preamp functionality of the unit, makes it sound a little bit better. So I'm going to concentrate on that. I am a person who believes in having an active gain stage between whatever your source is and the amplification. So I like preamps. I always have had preamps in my system. I don't like, passive preamps for me they don't work, because I think you lose a great deal, which includes things like dynamics and dimensionality to a certain degree. You don't get as much transparency, but you get everything else. And when I listen to the P1 as a streamer, and so this, what we would have is the volume at 100%. We're using it as a 2-volt source. And then when we switch to the P1 as a preamp on its own, and you can either use it with or without lead H. You can turn that on or off. It changes the entire perspective. When you use it just as a preamp, I mean, with the streamer and whatnot, and you're not using it with lead H, it sounds really direct. It sounds almost like most kind of passive preamp situations. There is some stuff happening, but obviously because of the output transformers, which is nice. It kind of smooths it out, and it gives you a nice, you know, kind of slightly inviting presentation. But certainly it is the most direct sounding of the 3 modes that I listen to the P1 in. In other words, when you're not using the digital processing that it includes, which is what lead H is, it sounds most conventional, but in a really, really good way. It is very direct, extremely dynamic, almost like it's closed mic, right? Like the microphone is, you know, this close. That's what a lot of it sounds like. And then you put it in the preamp. You put the P1 running everything, and then straight into the McIntosh. And the McIntosh actually expands on what the P1 sounds like with lead H processing. In other words, it gets velvety, and it gets all those kinds of things that you like about the McIntosh. The McIntosh, and you kind of understand it's coloring what the P1 is doing. It's creating a McIntosh environment for the P1. And so if you really like the way the McIntosh sounds, and that's what's going to happen. I actually liked it best without any of that stuff running, without the lead H processing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. It just sounded to me, I was a little bit more connected to it. I never really noticed that any of these things were soft sounding, but, you know.
Definitely not soft sounding.
But in comparison, when you A/B it, this is the problem when you A/B it. It's not, you know, because you're trying to remember something that happened even like a few seconds ago, or like maybe a few minutes ago, and there's some sort of bias that happens, and yeah. So that's what I noticed, is that as we increase, especially when we put it fully into the McIntosh kind of took over. If you really want to hear what this unit sounds like, probably don't use it with a preamp, you know, like unless you have a system, a setup that you already really, really like, and you like the way those attributes are.
I have a question for you on that. Do you recommend the unit as it is, using it as a preamp, or the 3 pieces?
Of course I do.
So that's my thing. I would recommend.
But they're different. They're different. It was pretty substantial as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I found that the lead H, I preferred when it was off, and I felt that I got more bass out of the system. Not that I'm a bass head, but I got more bass out of it instead of in the digital form.
What kind of Jamaican are you? You don't like bass. What is wrong with you? Alex is laughing. He's like, this is not politically correct.
You have to understand that he just plays reggae all day long.
What was that day? I was listening to music. I just created a new playlist, and I was listening to some reggae, and he had to step in and says, no, that kind of music is not allowed here.
Not allowed in this store.
Wait. I'm not allowed to play UB40, right?
That was a funny thing. I was about to play UB40 right after that. After he said that. That was funny. Okay, so let me give my 2 cents worth. So the funny thing is, I had no, again, as usual, we don't discuss about these things before the video starts. So I had no idea what the guys were going to say. I had listened to the setup overall 3 times. The first 2 times over a week ago, and then one on Monday. Monday was a holiday, but I had to come in and do something, so I thought let me give it one last listen to it. So and in all cases, with different speakers, both with the Sabrina as well as with the Acora, what was it, the SRC one? My findings were very similar. So starting with just the P1. Well, let me back up a little bit. Philip comes to me one day a few months ago and says, Adrian, we need to order Lumin P1. And I have no idea what Lumin P1 is. So I had to look it up and then do a quick search about what it's all about and why we should look at it. Anyway, long story short, he made his case. I said, fine, we ordered one. And shortly after we ordered one, he actually sold one. So good for him. Then we thought we'd do a review on it. And I wasn't all that crazy about the P1 just on paper, thinking it's got a preamp built in. We already have lots of preamps. What I really want is a streamer with a really good DAC built in. But anyway, so we listened to it. My first impressions, even though I wasn't biased towards liking it subconsciously, very impressed. It is every bit as I had hoped it would be. Very clear, great detail, wonderful dynamics, both micro and macro. In fact, I couldn't think of anything that it was lacking when I was listening to it multiple times. I really enjoyed it. And that's another thing. I tried very, very hard to not get swayed by the music. I was just, within seconds.
Yeah, but you were swaying.
Yeah, within seconds, I'm into the music. And I had to keep reminding myself I have to take notes. So then I switched over to the McIntosh. I had to tear myself to switch over to the McIntosh. And at this point, I have to say I was somewhat hesitant. I'm thinking, okay, I love the McIntosh. And usually when you put more things into the signal path, things get worse. You don't usually get things better. Not usually. And so I was thinking, oh my God, I think the Mac is going to make things worse. That was my concern. And initially, some of it for sure, as I think Philip pointed out, you lose a little bit of detail. You lose a little, it gets a bit more colored. I shouldn't say you lose, it gets a bit more colored. When you switch from the P1's preamp to the McIntosh definitely sounds a little bit more, well, it's a McIntosh. You've got that wonderful worn pair of slippers kind of feeling. It's very comforting, but you don't lose the details, all the imaging. And in fact, yeah, this is one thing. If I could say that if there were negatives about the P1, it was I was struggling to nitpick, and it would be like, well, the dimensionality could be better. Again, pointing out to what Philip had said. Dimensionality could be better. It could be more three-dimensional. The soundstage could be a little bit wider, especially on the Wilsons, where we know we can get great soundstaging and imaging and the chorus as well. The sound, the voices were a little bit maybe laid back, not quite as intimate as I like, especially with simple vocals and so on. Switch over to McIntosh, like, there it is. That's what I was missing.
Home. It's
yeah,
home.
yeah. That's what I'm missing. I have that three-dimensionality now. I have that beautiful soundstage now. I have that depth. I have that intimacy when I'm listening to simple arrangements with voices. In some cases they're singing in my room. It's like, this is so nice. But it's definitely sweeter sounding. It's definitely a little bit more colored, but not in a bad way, because as the guys will tell you, I play some really unusual music sometimes, and a lot of the recordings aren't that great. So when the recording's not that great, but I love the music, I still want to enjoy that music. And the McIntosh is, to me, a worthwhile addition to the system. Not for everybody. I'll be the first to point out, because again, the C53 is a lot of money. But if you have the budget and you share similar bias as I do, and that is that the system should play your music and not the other way around. I don't want a system to only literally allow me to only play certain kinds of music. Then to me, the McIntosh works really, really well. So I'll give you some example. When I listened to it by itself, I was listening to Take 5, Dave Brubeck. Everybody knows the cut. Great, beautiful piece of music, well recorded. And of course, immediately after that, I had to play Ben Webster, Making Whoopee. That's a mono recording, sounds great in the room. It's like, wow, I was really enjoying this. And for some reason, my mind twigged to Ryan Adams. I don't know where that connection is, because they're totally different. But I played Ryan Adams' Desire, beautiful, beautiful piece of music. And then that led me to Miles Davis' Tutu, which was a piece of music I hadn't listened to for the longest time, right? I really enjoyed it. With the McIntosh, I enjoyed everything even more. and I guess that's like a big compliment I would give it. With the McIntosh, I was able to play music like Paul Weller's "Black is the Color," and it sounded even more intimate, even more inviting. For the first time, I actually heard and felt the lyrics. You know, there's a sense of longing, the singer longing for his lover, that for the day that they will be reunited, will be together again. I think I mentioned to you guys recently, but for some reason, my mind recently has been playing Jukebox at 17 by Janice Ian. Did I mention this to you guys?
No.
I don't know why. Just recently.
It's a great song.
Yeah, recently it's been playing over and over on repeat.
Maybe you're feeling old.
Yeah, well, you know, the song, for those of you who don't know, the song is basically about a social outcast in high school. And many of us have gone through that. I certainly did. And I remember thinking, you know, so background is, I come from a big family, 10 siblings, 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And out of the 5 brothers, there's only 2 of us left. Daniel, who's 3 years older than I am, or 2 years, I should say. And Daniel is the kid that every parent wishes they had, right? Very, very smart, very obedient, great kid, captain of the tennis team. I mean, everything you possibly think of that should be, he was in high school. And me being the kid that immediately followed, it's like I was always under his shadow. And so I became the exact opposite, either consciously or unconsciously, I don't know. But in Singapore, every Friday, if you were bad, they would put you in front of the whole school and cane you. So every Friday, I had the dubious distinction of being caned every Friday because I was a very, very bad kid. And I took great joy and pride wearing that on my sleeve, saying, I'm the exact opposite. I didn't fit in. I was a very, very, yeah, outcast would be a good word. Anyway, but I recognized the song, I guess, when I came to Canada. Somehow the song started playing, and I recognized that song, and I loved the song. And then recently, again, the song started to manifest. I started to listen to it again. It's a decent recording, not a great recording, but with the system, first with the Lumin, I recognized for the first time that there is this samba-esque instrumentation. I never noticed that before. If you listen to it, you'll notice that you hear this beautiful production in how they made this pop song with this Latin influence. And then, of course, the words started to take on so much more meaning. And Philip is probably right. You get older, you start reflecting about your earlier
there's an
days.
Emotional resonance.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I certainly resonated so much with the song. And even though it wasn't a great recording, it wasn't to the point where I couldn't enjoy it. And then when I put it in the McIntosh, I was like, wow.
Well, the McIntosh does that better than, I think, almost any
it does it
other brand.
So well. It made such an emotional connection with me that I could listen to that and really, really enjoy it. So my conclusion, let's come to conclusions first. Louis, what do you think? What's your conclusion?
I really like the Lumin, and but I would not give it a nod over the McIntosh C53
with the preamp section. Yeah.
With the preamp section. But as I said, I would definitely recommend it as a 3-part unit because it has, great features as a one box. I would not say the Mac is, 30% better than it. I would just say, musicality-wise, the Mac is. I give it the as a preamp.
But they're slightly different products. Yeah.
Yes.
Philip?
Well, they're not really comparable. Really, in many ways, Lumin already had this. The innovation, the extra feature in the P1 is that it can act as a distribution center, and it has a DAC that you can actually connect other things to it. That was always a wish of mine, of even like units like, the X1. The X1, the T2 or the new T3, they all have that preamp function. It's just not, people don't really know about it. There's no like fancy remote. So in the P1, Lumin has probably said, well, we can leverage this. It's already built into the machine. We add a few little things to it. It becomes much more useful. So for me, they're two different products. I would be more than happy just to have the P1 in my system. I'll run the Lead H.
For me, what is astounding about the P1 is that it may well be the best all-in-one unit I've heard. And certainly for the money, it's unbelievable. Now, having said that, I will very quickly point out, I certainly haven't heard every possible all-in-one streamer DAC preamp out there. I certainly haven't. But what I can say with some confidence is that given our history with Lumin and what we've been able to compare a lot of their products to with what's out there, they consistently rank among the very top that's out there, especially when you consider the prices that their products are sold for and how well built they are. And so I would not be surprised if the P1 was among the very, very best out there. At least in my experience, it's certainly the very best I've heard as an all-in-one streamer DAC and preamp. And the way it's built and the fact that they consistently support through firmware updates and so on, just wonderful. The app is very, very good, and look at all the features you get. I would not struggle mightily in any way, shape, or form to use it in any existing very good system. It's fantastic. Where I would consider adding something like a McIntosh preamp is only because if my budget allowed and I wanted to be able to explore more of my average recordings and not give up on the music that I love. You know, we always make fun of Philip's Bananarama music.
They have a new record out. It's really good.
Who has been asking for Bananarama music? You know, shame on you people. But yeah, if I did want to play, in all seriousness, Bananarama and so on, then having something like a McIntosh, whether it's a C49 now?
Yeah. The
C49 or even the C8 preamplifier, which would add a little bit of that McIntosh color, no pun intended, would not be a bad thing. But I would use the P1 as a superb streamer and a DAC. The DAC is extremely competent. When you implement the ESS Sabre DACs the way they have, full dual mono with the Lundell outputs and so on, there's really no downside. So that's my conclusion. If you're in the market for an all-in-one three-piece unit, three-in-one unit, this is a superb option. Yeah,
I do agree with that assessment.
Yeah. Any last thoughts?
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. Alex, thoughts?
Sounded great.
There you go. A man of few words.
So yesterday I was playing a song, one of my tracks, Adam Ben Ezra playing the cello, Bolero. And after I finished, he came into the room and he says, "What track was that?" So he says,
"Alex, you never heard Bolero?"
So I said, "Alex, I don't want you listening to these songs because you may get old before your time."
You should see that movie 10.
10, yes. You ever watch 10? No?
Blake Edwards.
Dudley Moore.
Bo Derek.
Oh, she was.
She's like running down the beach and she's like with, you know, dreads.
Yeah.
Well, not dreads, but braids.
With bikini. Oh, my God.
You know what? We better stop there. Adrian, you better stop there.
Anyway, Adrian from Audio Excellence Canada, Philip, Lewis, thanks for watching this. And as usual, if you like the video, share, subscribe, comment below. If you know of other great all-in-one units, I'd love to read your feedback and your thoughts, and we'll maybe even try and do a comparison in the future with other units if we can get our hands on them. Anyway, thanks for watching this. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.